Hello there. In the series of this hematopoiesis lecture, today is the second part in which I will be talking about the erythropoiesis and leukopoiesis. Before we move on to the today's main lecture, I would just like to summarize the yesterday lecture in which I have talked about the hematopoiesis, and then I'll be going to the erythropoiesis and leukopoiesis. Let's summarize the yesterday lecture in which we have learned that hematopoiesis starts at the embryonic stage day 20, and initially it start producing blood cells at the blood island in the yolk sac, which finally migrates to the bone marrow at the age of 70 days in the embryonic life, where all these blood cells, initially RBC, are formed, which are nucleated in size. And when we see the blood do contain the three different layers. When we centrifuge them: plasma, then there is an intermediate buffy coat, and the erythrocytes. Plasma is the water liquidy component, and the erythrocyte at the bottom, and buffy coat layer at the intermediate zone. And this is the micrograph of the blood cells. These are the RBC, WBC, and platelets. And this is what this whole summary of the hematopoiesis, in which we have learned that there is a hematopoietic stem cell, and these stem cells, upon stimulation with this different stimulating factors, it start forming a different lineages which produces the RBC, platelets, monocytes, neutrophils, and lymphoid. So let's move to the detailed RBC production today, in which I'd like to just give you some facts about the RBC. That RBC in male is around 4.5 to 5.5 million per 100 ml of blood, or deciliter of blood, and there is slight lower in the females. And it has a size of biconcave saucer shaped, and ranges from 7.5 to 2.5 micrometer in size. And if we talk about their lifespan, it lives for 100 to 140 days. Average is 120 days. And how we come to know that this life is this many days? Radioactive labeling of these cells have revealed this study. So when these RBC become old, so they are getting phagocyzed and recycled their heme and protein materials, and these recycling mainly done in the spleen. Bone marrow and liver is also doing at a smaller scale. So main role of the RBC is to transport the oxygen and carbon dioxide, as all we know. And there are many diseases, mainly they are anemic in nature. So this is what the structure of RBC. This is the actual structure. This is the cut section, and this is the structure of hemoglobin, where we can see there are polypeptide chain alpha and beta, and there are heme group, and this heme group is the main area. So what is the function of RBC? RBC, there are having 250 million molecules of hemoglobin, and each hemoglobin can bind with the 4 oxygen or carbon dioxide molecules. When they bind with the oxygen, it called as oxyhemoglobin, and when they bind with the carbon dioxide, then it is called as a carboamino compound. Let's see, these RBCs are of two types. One is called as primitive RBC, another is called as definitive RBC. Primary RBC is the nucleated RBC at the embryonic stage, that is being produced by the yolk sac, and that is at age of 20 days. And at the age of 30 days of embryonic stage, they start producing definitive RBC. That means they do not have the nucleus in their cell. And there are other areas which also produces these definitive RBCs, are the bone marrow and also the AGM. Let's understand the process of RBC. So RBC process are of two types. One is at the primitive RBC formation process, and another is definitive RBC formation process, just I mentioned in previous slide. And this location of this primitive RBC formation is at Yolk sac, the special cell which produce this RBC are known as hemangioblast cell at the blood island on the yolk sac, and also at the aorta gonad mesonephron. And definitive RBC are being produced by the liver cells, bone marrow of the fetus, and also the bone marrow at the adult. So this is the diagram just to make you understand how this primitive cell do start forming the RBC cells. So this yolk sac is having one cell is known as hemangioblast cell. So they produce this erythropoietic progenitor cells. So that progenitor cells converts into the different stages of normoblast or the erythroblast, in which proerythroblast, basophilic erythroblast, polyerythroblastic or orthochromatic erythroblast. Ultimately nucleus is going out and reticulocytes are being produced, and those reticulocytes converts into erythroblast. In the definitive erythroblast, it starts at the hematopoietic stem cell, in which there are myeloid linases. These myeloid linases have this erythropoietic linase that is called as burst forming unit of erythropoiesis, then colony forming unit of erythropoiesis, and this colony forming erythroblast produces the proerythroblast, which in interaction with the macrophages changes from pro to basophilic, then polychromatic, and then orthophilic, and then reticulocytes, and ultimately the mature RBC secreted in the circulation. Let's see the steps of RBC maturation. So these are the starts with the hematopoietic stem cells, then their first stage to the fifth stage, and then the matured stage. So at the start, it starts with the hematopoietic stem cells, which converts into proerythroblast, which separates from the committed stem cells and starts this RBC lineages, and they have a large nucleus. In the second stage, it is known as basophilic erythroblast. They are smaller than the proerythroblast. They are nucleated and having large number of ribosomes. And third stage is polychromatic erythroblast, which are gray-green in color, having ability to synthesize large quantities of hemoglobin. Fourth stage is orthochromatic erythroblast, in which we do see they do lose the ability to divide, and their nucleus start shrinking, and that shrinking happens because there is a layer around the nucleus that starts moving, because that protein is vimentin. So vimentin starts disintegration, and that is why nucleus is finally expelled from the cells. And when they expels, they do also have certain kind of plasma membrane associated around them without any cytoplasm, and those cells are known as pyrenocytes. These pyrenocytes are phagocytosized. So now it is called as reticulocytes. This orthochromatic erythroblast is called as reticulocytes. They do not have the nucleus, but they have a large number of ribosomes. So before moving into the circulation, those ribosomes also need to be removed. So after it is removed, it is become the mature RBC. Remember, from start to the fifth stage, all these activities do take place within the bone marrow, and mature RBCs are being released. And these mature RBC do contain what? A plasma membrane on which there are certain receptor protein as well as blood antigen that are made up of polysaccharides. Let's see through a schematic diagram. This is what this stem cells, which becomes this proerythroblast, then the erythroblast. So this erythroblast to normoblast is having those stages which I would show you. So this is what this proerythroblast, basophilic erythroblast, polychromatophilic erythroblast, and orthochromatic erythroblast, reticulocytes. I just explained you. So there are certain vitamins which plays role in the maturation of RBC, and Those are vitamin B12 or cyanocobalamin and folic acid. What does it do? It provides the raw material to the formation of DNA, that is called as purine and pyrimidine ring, and it also provides the pyrrole rings. Let's see how it happens. So this is the synthesis of heme in order to complete the hemoglobin formation, which starts with the succinyl coenzyme A and combining with the glycine, which creates the pyrrole ring, and 4 pyrrole ring are combined together, that is known as protoporphyrin. And this protoporphyrin, when combines with the iron, it is called as heme, and heme is combining with the hemoglobin chain, so it is become the hemoglobin. Let's see how it look like. So this is what this pyrrole ring, and when 4 pyrrole ring are combined together, it is known as protoporphyrin, and when this protoporphyrin is inserted with this iron molecule, is become the heme, and when this heme combines with the globin protein, so this is what this hemoglobin, in which 2 alpha polypeptide chain of globin protein and 2 beta polypeptide chain of the globin protein. So who controls the formation of this RBC? Is one of the factor is hypoxia. Hypo means less, oxia means oxygen. So when there is a less oxygen due to any of the factors like low blood volume, anemia, hemoglobin is less, or poor blood flow, or pulmonary disease, it creates the tissue hypoxia. Tissue hypoxia induces the erythropoietin in the kidney, and erythropoietin is a hormone that is released by the kidney, and it acts on the hematopoietic stem cells, which enhances the survival of the proerythroblast, which produces the more number of RBC. Let's see how it happens. So this is what this schematic diagram to make you understand. This is what this low oxygen, because less number of RBC is there. So kidney is getting stimulated to secrete the erythropoietin. So erythropoietin through the blood circulation comes to the bone marrow. All we know, hormone act far away from their site of secretion. So this is bone marrow is far away from the kidney, so it acts on this and it enhances the blood cells. So these are the 5 steps by which it is getting enhanced. So let's know the mechanism of hypoxia induced enhancement of the erythropoietin induced RBC formation. So erythropoietin is excreted, but it also hypoxia also induces formation of this 2 protein is known as HIF1 alpha and HIF1 beta. So this HIF stands for hypoxia induced factor. So what does it do? It enhances the receptor of erythropoietin on the erythroblasts. So, and it also requires transfer protein for the iron, that is known as transferrin. So transferrin receptor also getting increased, and also vascular endothelial growth factor, which enhances the angiogenesis, that means formation of new blood vessels in the tissue. All this process requires energy, so glycolytic enzymes are also been enhanced. So what does it do? Overall action of this enhances the oxygenation, and when there is oxygenation is high, so it becomes the high oxygen. So high oxygen stops this stimulation as a feedback mechanism. So what does it do? It actually disintegrate this hypoxia induced factor by combining releasing one enzyme is known as propyl hydroxylase oxygen sensor, which ubiquitinize this hypoxia induced 1 alpha protein, and as a degradation of this, all this stimulation stops. Let's see what happens in the mechanism. So this is what this erythroblast membrane. In this erythroblast membrane, we do see this erythropoietin, which have a receptor. So through this receptor, it acts through this JAK-STAT pathway, which enhances the stimulation of this GATA1 gene, which produces this BCLX low anti-apoptotic gene. So this anti-apoptotic gene stops the fast induced apoptosis of this erythroblasts.